Every entrepreneur I talk to thinks their AI is helping them think. Most of the time, it's just helping them feel right. And those are not the same thing. Here's what's exactly happening inside every AI conversation you're having right now. The model is not analyzing your business, it's predicting what you want to hear. And the better it gets at predicting you, the worse it gets at telling you the truth. This is not an opinion. This is how the technology is built. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly why this happens. Why it's not just a psychological quirk, but an operational problem. And then, this is the part that actually matters for your business. I'm going to show you the system structure that corrects it. Because there's a specific way to use AI that gives you better thinking. And there's a way that just gives you a more confident version of your own blind spots. Once you see the difference, you can't unsee it. Let's go. Let's start with the mechanism because this is not about tools, this is about architecture. AI language models are trained using a process that reward responses users rate positively. That sounds reasonable until you realize what users consistently rate positively: agreement, validation, reassurance. So, what gets reinforced through thousands and millions of interactions? Not accuracy, not challenge, not here's why that's a bad idea. Agreement. The model learns at a fundamental level that approving your thinking produces better scores than questioning it. That's not a bug it forgot to fix. It's a direct consequences of optimizing for user satisfaction. Look, now here's where it gets operationally expensive. The longer you use a chat-based AI, the same thread, the same context window, the same memory of past conversation, the more it builds a model of you, your tone, your preferences, your assumptions, your existing beliefs. And the more it knows you, the better it gets at telling you what fits inside the picture you already have of your business and of you. Think about what that means. You're trying to find a hole in your pricing strategy. You ask AI to pressure test it. AI already knows you're confident about your pricing. AI knows you responded well to the last 3 times it validated your positioning. So what does it do? It finds the arguments that support your pricing and softens the ones that challenge it. Not because AI is lying, because it's learned that's what you want. This isn't a ChatGPT problem specifically. It's a default behavior problem. It shows up across every major model when it uses them without any system to counteract it. And most people, most business owners, have zero system to counteract it. Here's what most of the conversation around this completely misses. People talk about AI sycophancy like it's an awareness issue. Now that you know, you be more skeptical. You push back more, you ask harder questions, and that helps, but it's not a system. And individual skepticism is not a substitute for a system. Let me show you the real operational cost. When your AI is optimized to agree with you, every decision you run through it inherits that bias. Your offer pricing, confirm. Your target market, confirm. Your campaign angle, confirm. Your hiring decision, confirm. Your launch strategy, confirm. Not because those decisions are right, because AI learned that confirming them is how this conversation goes well, is how we have a continuum in our conversation. That's why I keep suggesting you, do you want me to do this next? Do you want me to do that next? Next thing you know, you're in a rabbit hole with bad assumptions. Now multiply that across 6 months of decisions. You've built a business on a foundation of validated assumptions. And the tool you've been using to pressure test those assumptions was quietly bending towards them the whole time. This is not a small problem. That is a compounding problem. Because every decision downstream of a bad assumption inherits the error. Here's what I want you to hold on to before I show you the fix. There are 2 completely different ways to use AI in your business. The first is conversational. You talk to it, it responds, it adapts to you. It feels like thinking out loud with a smart partner. And that feeling, that sense that the AI gets you, is exactly the warning sign. The second is structural. The design inputs that force a specific kind of output. The AI doesn't get to adapt to your mood, your tone, your prior answer. It has a job. The job has a defined output. The output gets evaluated. You picking up what I'm putting down? You get what I'm saying? One of those is a mirror, the other is a system. And right now, most entrepreneurs are running their business on a very sophisticated mirror. All right, here's the actual fix. And I want to be clear, this is not just write better prompts. What I'm describing is a structural design choice about how AI sits inside your decision-making workflow. 3 things specifically. Number 1, separate your generation prompts from your evaluation prompts. Most people use AI in a single pass. You ask a question, you get an answer, you decide. That's the loop that produces agreement. What you want instead is 2 distinct roles in your workflow. Role 1 is the generator. AI builds the idea, the copy, the strategy, the plan. Role 2 is the evaluator, a completely separated prompt, a completely separate context with an explicit job to find what's wrong with what the generator produced. Not, what do you think? Not, is this good? Right? And don't get me wrong, I've made this mistake for a long time. I type, I strategize, I think I'm inputting stuff, and then I say, do you understand? Do you, right? And I'm asking the questions, and what I did was actually relied on it too much, right? From a generator perspective. And I didn't really followed up with how to implement these other things that evaluated, right? So now I'm trying to pass on this experience to you so you don't make the same mistakes, right? So we don't want to ask it, what do you think? Is this good, right? And rather give it a job. And the job is, here's the output. Find the 3 most likely reasons this failed. Find the assumption that is hardest to defend. Find what I'm not seeing. That's a different instruction and it produces a completely different response. Number 2, criteria-based evaluation, not feeling-based evaluation. When you ask AI, does this look good? You're asking for a feeling, a sentiment, if you will. When you ask AI, does this meet these 5 criteria? And you specify those criteria, you're asking for analysis. The difference matters because criteria don't bend to your mood. Your offer copy gets evaluated against clarity, specificity, proof, objection handling, urgency, whatever your criteria is. Not against, does this sound like me? Does this feel like is good? Does this feel right? Build the evaluation framework once. Use it every time. Know your AI can agree its way through. It has to check the boxes. Number 3, audit your context regularly. This one is practical and people skip it. If you're using a memory-enabled AI tool or working in long threads, the context is built on you gets stale. You've evolved. Your business has shifted. Your assumptions have changed. But the model's still responding to a version of you from 3 months ago. The fix is simple. Periodic context resets and explicit context updates. Not, here's my new idea, but here's what I believe now, and here's what I used to believe that is no longer true. Treat the old context as outdated. That instruction alone changes the quality of what comes back. None of these 3 things require a new tool. None of them require a big budget. They require design. They require you to stop using AI like a smart search bar and start using it like infrastructure. The output of a conversation is an answer. The output of a system is a compounding asset. That is the difference between entrepreneurs who are getting sharper with AI and the ones who are just getting more confident in the same blind spots. Look, I'm not anti-AI. I run my entire operations on it, but I don't run it on agreement. I run it on architecture. And the distinction between those two things is the most important thing you can understand about how to actually build with this technology. If you want to see what that infrastructure looks like in practice, the actual framework for building AI systems that challenge you instead of just validating you, DM me Money Maps on Instagram at AI Money Maps. That's where we go deeper. And if this hits differently, share with the operator in your life still running their business on a mirror. This is the agentic revolution.